For most of human history, people believed progress was permanent, that once something was discovered, invented, or understood, it would stay with us forever. But history tells a very different story. Not a straight line forward, but a pattern of rise, loss, silence, and rediscovery. Entire bodies of knowledge have vanished from civilization before, not myths, not legends, real techniques, real inventions, real understanding. Gone so completely that later societies had no idea they had ever existed. We tend to imagine the past as primitive, crude tools, simple thinking, limited understanding, but that image says more about us than it does about them. Because again and again, archaeology and historical research reveals something unsettling. Ancient peoples sometimes knew things we didn't rediscover until thousands of years later, and in some cases, we still don't fully understand how they did what they did. Knowledge is far more fragile than we like to believe. It doesn't disappear only when civilizations collapse dramatically. It can fade quietly. A master craftsman dies without an apprentice. A manuscript burns. A language falls out of use. A technique becomes irrelevant for a few generations and then impossible to reconstruct. Knowledge doesn't have to be destroyed. Sometimes it just has to be forgotten. One of the biggest illusions modern humans have is the idea that information automatically survives. Today we store everything digitally, across servers and clouds and backups. It feels permanent. But digital information is actually one of the most fragile storage systems humanity has ever created. File formats become obsolete. Hardware becomes unreadable. Encryption keys are lost. Entire archives can become inaccessible not because they were erased, but because no machine exists anymore that can interpret them. Future archaeologists might one day recover our storage devices perfectly intact and still have no idea what's inside them. History has already shown this pattern many times. After the fall of major civilizations, later societies often inherit their structures but not their understanding. They live among ruins they couldn't rebuild. They reused materials from monuments they couldn't design. They copy fragments of texts they can't fully interpret. The physical world remains. The meaning disappears. Sometimes knowledge survives in distorted form. A practical technique becomes a ritual. A scientific principle becomes a superstition. Instructions turn into tradition after the reasoning behind them is lost. People continue doing something correctly without knowing why it works. And once the explanation is gone, the method is only one generation away from disappearing too. What makes this more unsettling is that intelligence isn't the limiting factor. Ancient people were not less capable than modern humans. The human brain hasn't changed significantly in thousands of years. What changes is continuity. Knowledge is not stored in DNA. It is stored in culture. And culture can break. Imagine a chain where each generation holds a link. As long as every link stays connected, knowledge flows forward through time. But if just a few links snap, war, disaster, migration, collapse, the chain doesn't stretch, it breaks, and everything beyond that break can vanish from the future completely. There are documented cases where societies reinvented tools or ideas that had already existed long before, not because they copied them, because they rediscovered them independently. To them it felt like invention. To history it was repetition. Humanity sometimes walks in circles without realizing it. Even more fascinating are the moments when lost knowledge reappears. A buried manuscript is found. A sealed container is opened. A fragment of text is decoded. And suddenly, something no living person understood becomes clear again. It's like hearing a voice echo across centuries, proof that someone, long ago, had already solved a problem we thought was new. These rediscoveries can change how we see the past overnight. A society once labeled primitive suddenly looks sophisticated. A culture dismissed as simple turns out to have mastered complex techniques. And historians are forced to rewrite assumptions, not because history changed, because our understanding of it finally caught up. But here's the deeper implication. If knowledge has been lost before, it can be lost again. Modern civilization feels stable, but stability is not permanence. The systems that preserve information, education, infrastructure, communication networks all depend on continuity. If continuity breaks, preservation breaks with it. Right now, humanity collectively knows more than at any point in history. Science, medicine, engineering, mathematics, philosophy, art, language, an unimaginable library of understanding. But almost none of it exists inside a single human mind. It exists between us, distributed, shared, fragile. If that network fractures, knowledge doesn't vanish instantly, it fades unevenly. Specialized fields disappear first, then complex systems, then technical skills. Eventually, only the simplest, most directly useful knowledge remains. Not because it's more important, because it's easier to pass on without infrastructure. This has happened before. After major societal collapses, written records become rare, education becomes informal, precision disappears, measurements become approximate, techniques become simplified. People adapt to survival first, understanding comes later, if it comes at all. And yet, history is not only a story of loss, it is also a story of recovery. Humans are persistent problem solvers. Even when knowledge disappears, curiosity doesn't. Sooner or later, someone asks a question, someone experiments, someone observes, and slowly, piece by piece, something forgotten returns. That cycle, discovery, loss, rediscovery, may be one of the most consistent patterns in human existence. Not a failure of civilization, but a feature of it. Because knowledge is not a monument, it's a flame. It has to be passed from hand to hand. And every time it moves, there's a chance it goes out. The unsettling part is realizing we are not outside this pattern, we are inside it. Future generations may look back at us the same way we look at ancient societies, wondering what we once knew that they can no longer figure out. Wondering what ideas we understood that they can only guess at. Wondering what secrets existed in our time that didn't survive long enough to reach theirs. Right now, somewhere in the world, there is knowledge that exists in only one place, one notebook, one mind, one hard drive, one language, one tradition. And if that single point disappears, the knowledge disappears with it. Not dramatically, not loudly, quietly, permanently. History doesn't just preserve human achievement, it filters it. Most things don't make it through. What survives is not always what was most advanced, or most brilliant, or most important. It's what happened to be copied, protected, translated, or remembered enough times to outlast chance. Which means the past we study today is not the full past. It's the fraction that survived. And if that's true, then one possibility becomes impossible to ignore. Humanity may have already forgotten more than it currently knows.